my neighbors! What's going on, everybody? Let me hit that button one more time. How's it going, guys? I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I know I spent most of last night teasing what I was going to be talking about today. I've got some breaking news that if you're watching this show, you are going to hear before the majority of the general public. I had a whole show planned out today about the Southern Poverty Law Center and how they want to label you, they want to label me anti-government extremists, but one of their lawyers has now been charged with domestic terrorism for bombing a police station in Atlanta. That's what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about initially was the importance of voting early, was the importance of engaging in ballot harvesting campaigns in order to, make our elections more fair. If the Democrats are going to do it, we need to do it better. I'm still going to talk about all those things. But if you stick around on this show until 9 o'clock, I've got breaking news that you will know before the entire general public. I'm going to wait for a few more people to jump onto the show before I dive directly into that. I do have an interview with Scott PRESLER that I'm going to share with all of you about the ballot harvesting stuff, but give it 1 or 2 more minutes, let people jump in. Before we get started, guys, make sure if you're on Rumble, make sure you guys hit that Rumble button, share this video out across all your social media platforms, because you guys are going to get information, particularly if you are from Long Island. This has a direct impact on you. More than the majority of the country. The loud majority really came up with. Yes, I'm going to talk about the Sachem meeting tonight. That's not the only meeting going on tonight. That I think you guys are going to want to hear about. But as I said, before we get started, make sure you guys hit that Rumble button. Tag all your friends in the video chat on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, if you're on Rumble, keep sharing that video out. All right, so I think I've waited long enough to break the news. So obviously the loud majority came up through school boards, through corrupt administrators, through ideological administrators, and that was really how we made our name. That was how I met most of the people in this chat, by going to different school board meetings. I've still been going to school board meetings. We were at ComSwag the other day. I was at Lindenhurst and West Babylon and a few other school districts all over the island. I've been going to Sachem. Well, there's a new controversy breaking out right now in a certain school district on Long Island that you guys don't even know about yet. I got a call last night from my friends over at Project Veritas. They have unearthed, they have come up with undercover video that will be dropping today at 9 o'clock. You guys will be the first people in the world to see it. I've got the exclusive coverage of that, of an administrator in the East Meadow School District talking about all sorts of nonsense that we know happens all over in all of our districts. Now we have the proof in at least one of them when it comes to DEI, when it comes to transing the kids, when it comes to administrators pushing their ideology and their views on students where they have absolutely no place. I got to see some of the video last night. It's disturbing. It's what we know happens in the world, particularly in the world of education. Biased administrators hire biased administrators, and the pattern continues. The pattern continues over and over and over again. This is why when I go to school board meetings or when I speak to teachers who are on our side, they cower in fear. They cower in fear for their jobs. They cower in fear at not getting tenure. You will see why. And coincidentally enough, this video coming out of East Meadow, if you guys are watching this, you guys have been to the East Meadow School Board meetings with us before, we know that the East Meadow School District has not always been friendly to parents. Has not been friendly to parents. So if you guys have friends who agree with us, who believe that politics and indoctrination ought to be out of schools, please tag them in the chat so that they can see what's happening, because it turns out their school board meeting is tonight, I believe. I believe their school board meeting is tonight. And I've been joking with my friends over at Veritas about when there was going to be some sort of an expose going out about Long Island schools, considering we know how corrupt they are. We know how dangerous bad administrators can be. We've seen it. We know it. Now we've got proof of it. This is a one part in what appears to be a multiple part series about an educational, I don't know, retreat, I guess you'd call it, an educational seminar that the good people over at Project, and there are still good people over at Project Veritas. Tomorrow on my 1 o'clock show, I'm going to be having the senior reporter from Project Veritas on the show to talk about their findings in an exclusive interview. You're not going to see it anywhere else. I believe I've got the exclusive there. So make sure you guys watch Rumble.com. Make sure you guys are tuned into Rumble.com/LFA TV if you want to see that interview early. I'm also going to be running it again on my Friday show. We know this has happened. We know this stuff has happened. I want to preface this by saying that I spoke to people close to James O'Keefe and, and close to Project Veritas. And when I interview him on tomorrow, is just going to be about this story. So I want to make that very clear. I'm not going to be diving into the inner workings of Project Veritas and the drama going on there. I felt that this story was too important for our local community. Look, this is our local show. This is where we discuss topics in our local communities to be able to extrapolate them to the greater society as a whole. That's what this Monday, Wednesday, Friday show is all about. So I'm very excited that they were able to unearth this footage, and the story was far too important to put personal stuff or stuff in the news in front of it. So just know that there's no rift there, and there are still good people over working at Project Veritas, and I'm sure they'll work out whatever sort of stuff they have to work out to rectify whatever that situation is. We never stopped. We never stopped working for you guys. I know there's been a lot of stuff out there, whether it's keyboard warriors or people that don't have much going on in their lives, just talking shit on Facebook and all that. Just know that if any of you have any questions, particularly the local people who have been with us from the beginning, just know that we over here, the people behind the scenes over at the Loud Majority, have never stopped fighting for you, and we never will. We never will stop fighting for you, because this stuff is too important. This stuff is far too important, and I want to thank everyone who stuck with us over the years through all the nonsense and whatnot. I do want to get to my regular show today because, as I said, this video drops at 9 o'clock today. I will bring it to you live once I'm told that I'm allowed to, which should be at just around 9 o'clock. I'm going to be honest with you, I had a jam-packed show for you guys today. I've got my CPAC interview with Scott PRESLER, which ties into things that Lee Zeldin said at CPAC, that Donald Trump said at CPAC, and things that we have been working on behind the scenes here over the course of the last several months since the election to be able to pull away wins here on Long Island. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes here, but I do want you guys to be able to see what we've been working on and whatnot. I do want to get to the news because I think the stuff that goes on is still important. And when the Project Veritas video drops at 9 o'clock, you guys will be the first people on earth to see it. You guys know this before anybody else. So, as I said, I'm going to have the senior correspondent from Project Veritas on my 1 o'clock show tomorrow rumble.com/LFATV. If you guys want to check that out early. If not, I'll be running it on my Friday morning show. Same time, same place, right here, 8:15 on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, all the different platforms. But I do want to dive into this because I think that this affects a lot of you, particularly for the local people who have been smeared by this organization, and it's important. It's important that everyone has the context because I promise you, I'm sure some of your friends have used the Southern Poverty Law Center to smear us, to smear you, to try to discredit people. Well, it turns out the Southern Poverty Law Center is exactly what we always knew it was, nothing more than a left-wing domestic terrorist organization, as one of their lawyers was arrested for domestic terrorism amid the riot outside of Atlanta at the Atlanta Police Training Facility. And it turns out, you'll never believe it, he was released on bail. So, I want to make this very clear. The QAnon shaman, the January 6th guy with the horns and the face paint, he spends 41 months in prison. No bail. Despite the fact that Tucker Carlson very obviously proved that he was led around the Capitol by Capitol Police, was basically allowed to walk in. At CPAC, I spoke to Sarah Maccabee, who has not been able to speak to her husband in almost 18 months down in the D.C. Gulag. But this guy, a lawyer for the Southern Poverty Law Center, Thomas Webb Juergens, is among 23 of the suspected domestic terrorists who were arrested over the weekend. He is allowed out on bail. If you need any more proof that we live in two Americas with two different standards of justice, these two stories ought to contrast that for you probably more than anything else. A lawyer for the Southern Poverty Law Center, this from Fox News, was released on bail after being arrested and charged with domestic terrorism after protests over a planned police training facility dubbed by opponents as Cop City turned violent over the weekend. Thomas Webb Juergens was among 23 suspected domestic terrorists released by the Atlanta Police Department on Monday. He was arrested on Sunday as violence broke out in Atlanta when demonstrators hurled bricks and Molotov cocktails at police officers and set cars on fire. Quote, "We are pleased that the DeKalb County Assistant District Attorney agreed to consent bond for Tom Juergens," the SPLC president and CEO said in a statement. As previously stated, Tom was performing a public service documenting potential violations of protesters' rights. We are outraged that the police officers present at the protest refused to acknowledge Tom's role as a legal observer and instead chose to arrest him. We are confident that the evidence will demonstrate he was a peaceful legal observer. So I've got some questions here. I've got some questions about this. Number one, he was a peaceful legal observer documenting potential violations of the protesters' rights. So the Southern Poverty Law Center has just admitted that they work for Antifa. So they just admitted that because he was there documenting potential violations of protesters' rights. So if you're out there from Newsday, if you're out there from News 12, if you're out there from the Smithtown News or the Messenger papers, maybe next time you want to publish baloney about me or any of the people in the chat, you will remember that the organization that put me on one of their nonsense lists, put us on one of their nonsense lists, is currently working for Antifa. Antifa, an organization that has killed multiple cops, an organization that has killed multiple civilians, attacked police officers, set cities on fire. The Southern Poverty Law Center is their legal arm. So just remember that next time you want to publish some crap about me or any of the other conservatives on Long Island, just remember that, Brian Moynihan. Unless you're too busy doing the bidding of the establishment. The Atlanta Police Department said many of the suspects came from other states, with at least two, with the exception of at least two, including Juergens. Quote, We will continue to defend the civil and human rights of all people and urge the Atlanta Police Department to, quote, de-escalate violence and avoid excessive use of force against protesters. Now, I find that incredibly ironic considering, they were throwing Molotov cocktails. So what exactly is the excessive use of force here that they used? All they did was arrest people for trying to set them on fire. But we don't get to hear these things. We're not going to hear these things on CNN. As a matter of fact, CNN, CBS, ABC, MSNBC didn't even talk about it. Proof enough that we live in two Americas. We live in two different Americas with two different standards of justice. And because we live in that sort of world, we cannot have a country. Either the law applies equally to everyone, or it means nothing at all. We can't live in that world. We can't function as a society if these people who try to set fire to a police facility, a planned police facility, are allowed to be put out on bail. Yes, you're absolutely right. Jerry Nadler claimed Antifa was an idea, despite the fact, they have Twitter accounts. Ideas don't have Twitter accounts. But Jerry Nadler doesn't care about that. He's not doing any of the work. The SPLC describes itself, this is great, as, quote, a catalyst for racial justice in the South and beyond, working in partnership with communities to dismantle white supremacy, strengthen intersectional movements, and advance human rights of all people. The group has come under fire for designated mainstream conservative and Christian organizations as hate groups, putting them on lists alongside organizations like the Ku Klux Klan. And on my show yesterday, on my LFA show yesterday at 1 o'clock, rumble.com/LFA, I went into great detail about the history of the Southern Poverty Law Center and how they have used their good name to push left-wing ideas in the left-wing agenda, to work for the communists and the Marxists, for the anarchists, for the people who want to burn it all down, despite the fact that many of the people arrested have no idea how good they have it. One of the accused domestic terrorists that they arrested came all the way from France. You mean to tell me this isn't an international network? You mean to tell me this isn't a well-orchestrated plan? You mean, and Janet's right. Antifa are all white. They're all rich white liberals who I don't know, I guess they're drowning in student debt, so they just want to bitch and moan and complain all day long. Quote, the Southern Poverty Law Center is known and respected for tracking and exposing far-right extremists and hate groups. Extremists will exploit any opportunity to criticize us because we are committed to exposing their hateful ideology, said the CEO. We will continue to expose and take on the most extreme racist actors in our country and defend the rights of all people, including protesters, to express themselves peacefully. Well, that's not what they did. They threw rocks at cops. They threw bombs at cops because a Molotov cocktail is a bomb. They threw mortars like fireworks at police officers. And when I say fireworks, they didn't throw firecrackers, okay? An M80 is a quarter stick of dynamite. That's how much gunpowder is inside of an M80. If you've ever seen one go off, you know that it's not just like a little pop. You're not throwing those little poppers that you get at 7-Eleven. But they'll downplay it. They'll continue to downplay the fact that they are the legal arm of the anarchist movement, that they are the legal arm of the Democratic Party, and that they do nothing but look for reasons to fundraise off of scared Northeastern liberals. It's what they do. They're an Alabama-based organization, and don't get me wrong, the Southern Poverty Law Center in the 60s and 70s did a spectacular job in dismantling the rise of the Ku Klux Klan. But since then, they have done nothing. They have done nothing except attack people who don't have the means to defend themselves. I said it on the show yesterday. They don't, on their little lists, they don't put conservative outlets that can legally defend themselves. They don't put the Daily Wire or Turning Point USA or Louder with Crowder or Project Veritas or I don't know, any of the Fox News. They don't put that OAN, Newsmax. They don't put any of those networks on there. Do you know why? Because those people have the financial means to defend themselves. They go after people like me. They go after people like us. The Southern Poverty Law Center has an $800 million endowment. You think I can fight that legal battle? Of course I can't. So, they put us on these little lists, and then idiots in the press like Brian Moynihan will use that to smear people like me and people like you. Idiots like Mark Turismo at Newsday, who has never spoken to me before, but has written, I don't know, a dozen articles about me, as any good journalist would do. Now it's funny watching him grift off the Santos train. That's hilarious. I got more news on that coming up in a little bit. So I did want to update you guys on the Southern Poverty Law Center. And I'm still going to show you guys, we got about 19 minutes left until the Veritas video is able to be dropped. So I do want to talk about ballot harvesting and what we need to do moving into 2023 and 2024. Now, I know there are people out there who talk about early voting and they talk about ballot harvesting and they say that it shouldn't exist. And I could not agree more. But so long as it does, we need to play by the rules the Democrats have put forth. Because right now, Democrats vote for a month, and we vote for 1 day. And we are never going to win that way. We are never going to win if we continue this sort of behavior. So I want to run you guys, obviously you guys know Scott PRESLER is the voter registration king of America, and I do want to run that interview for you guys right now as I get ready for the big Project Veritas drop about the ridiculous man from East Meadow. So I'm gonna run the Scott PRESLER interview, and then I want to talk about briefly what Lee Zeldin and Donald Trump both said at CPAC in terms of early voting and in terms of ballot harvesting. Here is Scott.
I'm using every legal tool at our disposal so that way once we're in power, we're going to be able to provide for layers of election integrity and ban those practices. But we can't do it unless we win.
If you oppose ballot harvesting, do everything in your power to make sure that it doesn't pass. But this is what conservatives need to do better.
Right.
Once it becomes the law, do ballot harvesting so much better than the Democrats that they regret passing it in the first place.
Right.
As soon as they see conservatives beating them on their laws, they're going to stop trying to pass it all across the rest of the country.
But until that day comes, Republicans must compete using every lawful means to win. That means swamping the left with mail-in votes, early votes, and election day votes. Have to do it.
Guys, I was saying it before, in this world there's a lot of talkers. There's There's not many doers. Well, let me tell you guys something. I want to introduce you to a doer. My friend, Mr. Scott PRESLER. We have been all over the place doing nothing but registering voters, getting more people engaged from county, state, all over the nation. I mean, sometimes I wonder how you keep track of where you even are sometimes. I know I can't keep track. How's things going?
It's good, yeah. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like Joe Biden and I forget what city I'm in.
Yes.
But I'm on a mission. I launched a super PAC called earlyvoteaction.com because it's my belief that unless Republicans engage in an all of the above approach to voting, election day, early in-person voting, mail-in voting, absentee ballot, harvesting, where legal and applicable, then we're not going to win.
100%.
And so I'm focused on, with all due respect, because I love New York and I love Long Island, I'm focused on Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin.
Absolutely.
We win those, we win the presidency.
Mathematically, they can't win if we win those states. And it's so important to understand is that for so long we haven't done these sorts of things. Yeah. And there's a totality approach. There's not a one-size-fits-all. We talk about it in our state all the time, registering kids in high school. Because in the state of New York, you can register at 16.
16.
Yeah, you can. So why not do it? Here's what the Democrats do. They go in and they register voters at 16, but they register their people.
Yeah.
No, now it's time for us to do what we've got to do to register voters, get them engaged early. The liberals took over the colleges. Let's take over the high schools.
Well, and it's working. There's a website called gunshowtrader.com. It has every gun show for the entire United States for all of 2023. And so, for example, this weekend, we're going to have volunteers in Salt Lake City, Utah to help defeat Mitt Romney in 2024.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to have people in Louisiana. And so we're doing this all across the country, registering new voters, bumping up our numbers. And then we need to have a robust ground game that on day one of ballots dropping in mailboxes, we're knocking on doors.
100%.
Day one of early in-person voting, we're knocking on doors.
I say it all the time. I don't want these things to exist.
No.
But while they do, we need to take advantage of it.
Well, and I want to be very clear, and I want to say this to the viewer at home. I understand your election integrity wants and needs, and I hear you, and especially after following the great Michael and Lindell.
We have the two kings of voting here on this show right now.
But I want to make it clear, I'm using every legal tool at our disposal, so that way once we're in power, we're going to be able to provide for layers of election integrity and ban those practices. But we can't do it unless we win.
Exactly, that's it. Once we get our people in, let's change the rules. But until then, in the state of Pennsylvania, for example, Republicans vote for one day, Democrats vote for a month. You're never going to win doing that.
No.
I don't care what about machines or any other entity. If you don't take advantage of the systems that are currently in place, we're putting ourselves at a disadvantage. And I'm sick and tired of moral losses.
Yeah.
I'm ready for wins. And the way we win is by registering more and more voters.
I'm tired of losing. And look, if I tell the Democrats where I'm throwing the football, right? If I tell them I'm voting on one day, what happened in Arizona on one day?
Yep.
The tabulation machines in 30% of Maricopa County went down. So if we wait to vote, we're actually shooting ourselves proverbially and peacefully in the feet. And that's why we lost with the great Kerry Lake in the great state 48.
Yeah, and we say it on this show, on my show all the time. It comes down to each and every voter. I don't want to hear about it. Look, Lauren Boebert won by 538 votes. I worked for a guy who lost by 300 votes.
Yeah.
The Michigan state legislature the Democrats have one more seat. You mean to tell me we can't win one seat in somewhere in Michigan to be able to pull back some of these abortion laws, pull back some of the transing of the kids? We could do that if we just targeted where we were a little bit more.
And you guys proved that in 2021, where we won seats in North Hempstead.
Yeah.
We won all across Suffolk, and we flipped Nassau County. Mm-hmm. And now every congressional seat in Long Island is represented by a Republican because you have proven grassroots works.
Well, grassroots works. Look, the bottom line is we usually only get about 50% turnout anyway.
Yeah.
So if we can pull out 70, 80% of Republican turnout, we cannot lose.
Boom.
They can't steal that many votes. It is up to us. I say to people all the time, and I know some people don't like it, but if you think they steal 10,000 votes, go find 10,001. Because
That's right.
that's one of the only realistic ways we as an individual person is going to be able to really combat whatever sort of shenanigans may or may not be happening.
Exactly. And so I've been doing a lot of traveling. I just visited Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, New York, and we're going to have what I call sister cities. So, for example, Los Angeles is real blue, right? But it's got 1 million Republicans. Why are we not utilizing those underutilized Republicans?
100%.
LA can help Nevada and Arizona, right? Chicago can help Wisconsin. Tennessee can help North Carolina, and New York and can help Pennsylvania. So I'm trying to bump up our numbers in places where people feel dejected and help to encourage them.
Well, that's the thing, is that a lot of it is people feel, if you live in LA, if you live in Brooklyn,
It's hard.
if you live in Chicago, why am I getting involved?
Yeah.
And that is what the left wants you to do. They want you to feel down. After what you did many moons ago, for those of you who don't know how Scott PRESLER got started, he got criticized for going to Baltimore and cleaning up the place. So he went to Baltimore with I guess he made like a Facebook post, got some people together, filled up garbage bags in abandoned lots in Baltimore. And I think it was CNN that yelled at you about it because it's not your city, whatever the hell that even means.
The Baltimore Sun came out and they questioned my motives for why I would be picking up trash in the city.
Yeah.
And so it got such big headlines because people were saying this is ludicrous that people would be finding fault in somebody helping to pick up trash.
Absolutely.
And so I wrote a letter to the editor basically saying, yes, we're going to do a cleanup and this isn't going to be a flash in the pan. And I went and did 5 different cleanups in Baltimore to show them this is a movement of love and action.
And, you know, it's so wild because Baltimore, I mean, I joke around because I'm not from there, but I joke around about Baltimore. I'm like, HBO made a show about how rough the city is. Like, it could use all the help and why. The fact that they criticized you for doing it objectively, whatever your motives may be, even if they were, I don't know how you can have bad motives picking up trash, but even if they were bad, like, you're doing something real. You're doing something real. So I'm so excited that you've now started the super PAC to be able to get these voters out. You know you're coming home, babe. You're coming back to Long Island.
Absolutely.
We need you to come back. You know what? I love this. Look at that TV right there. Talk about the odd couple. Talk about the odd couple on this set right now. That's hilarious. It just kind of caught my eye. But we're definitely going to have you come back to Long Island because we need some wins.
Well, I got a call from New York Young Republican Club, who has, of course, been working hand in glove with the Long Island Loud majority. So I am going to be focusing on the city council races. And of course, I want to shore up Nassau County. You guys turned it red. We got to keep it red. Focus on keeping Staten Island and let's work on Brooklyn.
Yeah. I mean, Lee Zeldin was able to take 32% of Brooklyn. If he gets 34, he wins. That's 30,000 votes in each borough. Guys, this is not unwinnable.
And then we're going to expand. Let's expand into Harlem and the Bronx and Manhattan and upstate New York. I was just in Rochester and Syracuse. If we bump up our numbers in Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse, we're going to win the governorship.
And I want to be clear, guys. There are certain states that Democrats can't win the presidency
without New York.
Without New York, if we're able to take a Michigan-Pennsylvania duo that makes up for a New York, mathematically they can't win. And what I love most about you is your positivity. A lot of people will get down and a lot of people will say, oh, you know, it doesn't matter. The machines are going to screw it up. And I think, no, that's what they want.
Yeah.
They want us to feel dejected. They want us to feel down. Like it's pointless. And I say it all the time, not going to happen. I'm never going to stop because this is too important. We cannot have a man like Joe Biden in office again, who just the other day laughed at a mother who testified before Congress after her children died of fentanyl poisoning. He laughed at them. Like, at least pretend to care, bro.
Yeah.
At least show up to Ohio and pretend to care.
Yeah.
He's not even good at the fake politician stuff. Never mind the actual governing basis.
Well, and if Republicans are smart, I posted on Twitter the other day that we need to go on a Republican listening tour.
Yeah.
Not where I'm trying to earn a person's vote, but we need to start making those inroads in major cities. Everyone's saying leave Manhattan, leave Philly, leave LA. I don't agree. If I'm America first, that means that I need to care about everybody, including the cities. So let's go into them, say, hey, I'm a Republican, but how can I help you? What do you care about? What policies are you looking for? And let's create a Republican Party that's going to include major cities and earn their votes.
Absolutely, because every city's different. What matters in New York
is totally different from Austin, Texas.
100%, and that's what we need. Look, there are so many. You talked about LA. There's 1 million Republicans in LA. There's 1 million Republicans in New York.
Yeah.
But they feel just as dejected as everyone else does. And it's so important. That's why I love your positivity. I said it. There's a lot of talkers, not a lot of doers out there. A lot of people go like this on social media. But nobody's out there hitting the ground running, doing it hard. Let me tell you, Scott PRESLER, this guy is the guy doing it. So where can everyone help you out? Help you out with your super PAC?
Please, you can go to the website earlyvoteaction.com. Again, that's earlyvoteaction.com. You can sign up as a volunteer or for our Sister City project. And the most important thing for your attention for one more minute is there's a state Supreme Court race happening on April 4th in the state of Wisconsin. We're having people write letters, call from the comfort of their home into Wisconsin, because right now the court is Republican, but a Republican is retiring. We lose this seat, the Wisconsin State Supreme Court goes Democrat. We all have to be focusing on this across the country.
It's all about special elections. That's where you can win it, because that is about voter turnout. And that's how we do it. Scott PRESLER, thank you so much for coming on, man. I can't wait to see you back home on Long Island.
On Long Island.
On Long Island. Thank you so much. The guy Scott's been doing this a long time. You know, he knows what he's doing. He knows what needs to be done. He's been in every state all over the country and all the swing states. This is how we win. This is how we win. By the way, chat, I just want to thank you all for reminding me how short I am. I just want to remind you that I am, in fact, not short. Scott is just very, very tall. Yeah, it was hilarious. We were watching it on the monitor down at CPAC, and I told him, I was like, are you and I even the same species? He's Gigantic. I can only do it in a 12-minute interview because my neck hurt from looking up at him the entire time. But look, Scott has moved his focus from the registration process to the ballot harvesting process. And look, we have to use every legal means in order to do that. I've got a story pulled up here about some of the closest elections in the 2022 midterms. Lauren Boebert won by 551 votes. That's how many, I don't know. How many blocks is that in your local suburb? 6 blocks? That's one freshman class. I've taken college classes with more people in it. 551 votes. Another Republican won in California by 660 votes. John Durant. And the big one, Sean Patrick Maloney here in New York, the leader of the Democratic Party's House Campaign Committee, the leader of the DCCC, lost to Mike Lawler by 1,700 votes. We cannot allow these elections. If you think that the machines are playing funny business, if you think that the mail-in ballots are what's causing it, we cannot allow these elections to be that close. Because I just gave you guys 2 examples. 3 examples, I'm sorry, of votes that could have very easily gone the other way. In Michigan, Republican John James defeated his Democratic challenger, winning by just 1,600 votes. 1,600 votes out of 326,000. John James is a rock star, and he is a figure in the Republican Party moving forward. And to bring this full circle, to bring it back home, here he is, Long Island's favorite son, Lee Zeldin.
Speaking of insanity, let's talk about the state of New York for a minute, if we could. This man ran one of the best races I've ever seen a candidate run. And I want to get to that race specifically in just a minute. But first, you've been doing a lot of work to figure out what conservatives can do better at getting out the vote, doing the blocking and tackling that is necessary to win elections. Talk a little bit about that and explain to the crowd what you're working on.
Well, first off, all 50 states should have voter ID.
Yeah.
Secondly, what we're seeing this move in local municipalities, we saw in New York City, we're seeing in Washington, D.C., there's others who want to follow it. Non-citizens should not be given the right to vote.
It's unreal.
It's a constitutional principle of one person, one vote.
Right.
And when you give a non-citizen the ability to vote, it dilutes the vote of a citizen. So they no longer have that one person, one vote. When litigation needs to be filed, file it right away. If you wait until after the election, too often it is too late. Then I would also add that if in your state you have Democrats trying to, say, legalize ballot harvesting, if you oppose ballot harvesting, do everything in your power to make sure that it doesn't pass. But this is what conservatives need to do better.
Right.
Once it becomes the law, do ballot harvesting so much better than the Democrats that they regret passing it in the first place.
Right.
As soon as they see conservatives beating them on their laws, they're going to stop trying to pass it all across the rest of the country. Don't sit back on our heels and lose. It's time for conservatives to be on offense, leaning into all of this and win across the board. Red states, purple states, blue states.
Do I think that we could have done more for Lee Zeldin? Absolutely. There's no way you can look at a loss and think that there wasn't something else that you could have done. You know, and now we're seeing the ramifications of it, with the banning of future gas stoves, all sorts of nonsense, with crime through the roof in New York. Is there more we could have done? Yeah. Do I think that we lost a lot more people than a lot of people anticipated? I absolutely do. Do I think that more people left New York than we anticipated? Yep. However, I want to make this very clear. If your friends hadn't left, in the COVID wave that was set forth by Democrats, if all those people hadn't left, and we had just had a tiny early vote ballot harvesting campaign. I don't introduce that video as Long Island's favorite son. I introduced that video as Governor Zeldin. New York is winnable. The congressional race has proven. And we're going to be doing everything in our power to make that happen moving forward. We have to do it. There's no reason why we couldn't do it. There's no reason why we shouldn't do it. It's so important that we, each one of us, do our individual part to be able to promote these sorts of policies. And if you look, and there are people out there that will say, and look, right before I interviewed Scott PRESLER, we interviewed Mike Lindell, and he is very adamant about not engaging in ballot harvesting, not engaging in early voting, and that's okay. That's what makes the right so great. What makes the right great is that we are allowed to have different ideas. We are allowed to have different opinions and then work out which one's right. I take pride in the fact that we happen to be the Big Tent. And yes, voter ID should be required in every state. There's absolutely no reason why it shouldn't. If anybody needs any proof of this, I believe his name is Ami Horowitz, did a video outside of Columbia University in Harlem. He walks into Columbia where all the rich white liberals go. And he asks all of them if voter ID is racist and why. And they all say yes. And they all say because black people can't get IDs because they don't have access to that, and it disaffects black and brown communities. And then he walks outside of Columbia University and asks all the black people in Harlem who actually live there. They're like, "Hey, do you have an ID?" And they're like, "Yeah, of course I have an ID." If you didn't have an ID, do you know where to get an ID? And they're like, "Yeah, you just hop on the bus, you go through stops, and DMV's right over there." See, rich white liberals think that their policies are actually helping the people they claim to help, but they don't. They're there to keep them downtrodden. Malcolm X very famously said that the biggest danger to black people, to the black community, were the rich white liberal, because they are the ones who have the savior complex. We need to get on the early voting. We need to look. It is not inconceivable that you go to vote and you get a flat tire, you can't vote. I say it all the time. I worked for a state senator who lost by 314 votes. 314 votes. In Massapequa Park. That's like 2 blocks. That's like 2 blocks of voting in Massapequa Park with how close the houses are together. And I'm sure there are people watching from across the country who have the same sort of setup in their own particular homes. I want to welcome everybody who's tuning in now. I'm waiting very patiently and very anxiously for the Project Veritas video to drop so that I can get it up to you guys right now of the administrator in one of our local schools who thinks that it's okay to deny conservatives jobs and for who just seems like a really all-around bad person. A really all-around bad dude. Guys, make sure you're smashing that Rumble button. The views are going up and up right now. I guess people are waiting for the video. I'm waiting for them to send it on over. But make sure you guys are hitting that Rumble button. If you're on Facebook, hit that like button. Share this video out into all your groups so that your friends can see what's going on in their local community. Let's see. Refresh the page. We'll see what's going on here. Waiting for the video to come in right now, and then I'll be able to get it over to you guys. But back to the ballot harvesting. Back to the early voting. If you guys needed any more proof, well, take it from the man himself. Here it is.
And I will move heaven and earth to fully and finally secure our elections. All Republican governors should immediately go for paper ballots, one-day voting, and voter ID. And the problem we have is we have governors, and some of them we like, and some of them we don't, but they're all talk. Think of it, they control the state. And we have a lot of governors. They should go for that. Paper ballots, same-day voting. You know, France had 37 million people voting. They voted in one day, and at 10:30 in the evening, they called the winner. There were no problems. They have paper ballots, same-day voting, voter ID. And they only had a little mail-in, and we would have this too, for soldiers that are very far away or people that are legitimately sick. Okay, legitimately, as opposed to millions and millions of ballots flooding the offices. They used COVID to cheat. But until that day comes, Republicans must compete using every lawful means to win. That means swamping the left with mail-in votes, early votes, and election day votes. Have to do it. We have to change our thinking because some bad things happened. You know, for some reason, Republicans like to vote on election day, right? The problem is you get there and they have so many already started. But worse, if you take a look at Kari Lake in Arizona, where they waited and waited, don't vote now, wait till Tuesday, wait till Tuesday, wait till Tuesday. And in the Republican areas, a tremendous percentage of the machines were broken and you couldn't vote. And they had lines that were a mile long all over the place, Republican areas, and they couldn't vote. They said, come back in 7 hours. But people can't do that. They have Little League, they have doctors. They might love Kerry, they might love the Republican Party and everything we stand for, but they can't do that. And they were standing in the hot sun for hours and hours. And then they sent in mechanics to fix them, and when the mechanics left, they were far worse.
Go. Guys, I just got the video in. Give me 1 second to pull it up here for you guys. I have not seen the final edited copy of this, so we will see what happened here. Let's see. Give me 1 second. I love how idiots will be like, "Oh, look, it's an audio-visual tech." Yeah, stuff takes a minute, guys. Stuff takes a minute. Alrighty, here it is.
Part of my work because I believe in making connections with kids. Here's the thing with DEI work. If you push too hard doing the work and you get this pushback, it will be decades before you can do the work again. Right. So it needs to be incremental. Certain the conservative movement will say, and I got to tell you, I am not opposed to this question, right? Why do we need to sexualize kids at a young age? After the pandemic, man, television of trans I'm like, how could this be? I mean, it's dangerous right now. It's dangerous for me, it's dangerous for all people who want to do this work.
Do you encourage your teachers to write, like, a curriculum advanced in diversity, equity, inclusion work?
Yes, covertly. Every district is doing this covertly.
Every district is
except
doing
for the
covertly?
Black population. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But we need the people, otherwise the work that myself and my generation have done is for naught. And that's where I'm starting. I'm having a personal crisis of conscience because I really feel like the work that I've done for 42 years could be for naught. It's because it could end the work if it gets out that we're doing it, because that's how loud some of these people are.
Dave Casamento, he gave his. I am the assistant superintendent in East.
A Project Veritas journalist met David Casamento, an assistant superintendent for the East Meadows School District on Long Island, New York, at an educator seminar hosted by EdCamp LI. The EdCamp Foundation operates across the country to, quote, strengthen and enhance teacher-driven professional development and shape the future of learning and advance equitable education systems. The EdCamp Foundation has a commitment grant of over $2 million from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Project Veritas met with Dr. Casamento as well as numerous educators and presenters from EdCamp to gain a better understanding of what is being taught in schools across Long Island and the United States as a whole as part of EdCamp.
4 years in the politics is basically my job.
Really?
I am political in every conversation I have. I never thought I'd be at this point in my life.
Yeah.
I am, and it is what it is. And if you can do the game, you can do the good work. There's degrees of this, and if you get smacked out of the game, what good are you?
City.
DEI work, tenure is absolutely essential. There are things that you're more comfortable saying, knowing that you could get pushback on, but you're not going to lose your job.
Right. Where?
It was if you don't have tenure, they could be this guy's troublemaker.
Right. And where does that pushback come from?
Parents. It's their conservative values. They honestly believe systemic racism does not exist. They don't understand why we have to talk about LGBTQ issues or have books that have LGBTQ themes in them.
Where I see the civilization of the United States going, it's worrying on many levels to me. I actually thought of running a session, but then there's this political side that someone could be recording inside the room. And politically, that could be suicide.
Before, people don't give up power. You have to take power away.
Yeah. So how do you take power away from the conservatives?
You chip away. You stop their ends. You stop hiring those types of people, which is, you kind of got to be coy about that.
Yeah. How do you do that?
Because you'll hear the way they answer a question. If they talk about kids and a not great light, you're like, no, you can't come here.
Yeah.
We want people who love our kids, who want to be more than just the classroom teacher. That's what we want.
Well, so do you encourage your teachers to write like a curriculum advanced in diversity, equity, inclusion work, like under that, I don't know, this anti-racist work? Like, do you encourage the anti-racist work to be put into their curriculum? Covertly.
Every district is doing this covertly.
Every district is
except
doing
for the
covertly?
black population.
In Long Island?
Yeah.
Really, every district is covertly.
I asked this question. I asked the question at an assistant student meeting, and they all were like, you could just see like how afraid they are.
What was the question?
I said, how are you rolling out the culturally responsive sustaining framework? And they're like, the answers were very carefully, or we do it quietly. It's because it could end the work if it gets out that we're doing it, because that's how loud some of these people are.
The conservatives are the loud ones.
Yep. Very loud.
So you and the assistant superintendents in Long Island have
in
to...
Nassau County, yeah.
In Nassau County, you have a group of assistant superintendents that you are subtly able to, push your progressive.
We share with each other.
So you hire teachers directly.
I am on the side of the teacher hiring process, but we created a whole rubric for the hiring.
Okay.
In the light of DEI.
Wow.
That's the question that we would ask.
That's amazing. So you have a rubric essentially that is able to weed out the conservatives?
I don't know how good it is, but we tried.
You tried? Mm-hmm. Well, how effective do you think it is at?
We've only had 1 year of it, so I don't know. It's too new for me to answer that question. I hire administrators.
You hire administrators. So, how do you make sure that you're not hiring, conservative administrators?
So what ends up happening in education is that you usually don't get conservative administrators. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Because they believe, to be an administrator, you have to believe in all kids. You have to believe in that. It just doesn't happen. They don't. If they're doing it for the money, and they're going to figure that out right away when you interview. So we're just not.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, so then you haven't had to hire anybody who is conservative?
I've hired administratively?
Yeah. You haven't hired any conservatives. If you had a conservative candidate and you figured it out right away, what would happen?
I would rank. So we do everything by committee, and I get a vote on that committee, and it's all secret. So I would rank them so low that their score couldn't possibly raise them up to the level of moving on to the cabinet.
Wow.
Which I then get another stab at it because I'm on the cabinet.
Yeah.
And I get more questions.
Absolutely.
And I can figure out how to draw that shit out of them.
Right.
And it hasn't happened. And I get it. My passion for this work is, in education in general, is much more tied to my identity than many people, because for many people they have families and their families, and I have a husband, I don't have children, I don't have all those other constraints. I'm able to really make this a big piece of my life.
Despite Casamento's staunch belief in, quote, doing the good work, he also expresses an internal struggle he deals with regarding the advancement of transgender protocols with young children in schools.
So the conservative movement will say, and I gotta tell you, I am not opposed to this question, right? Why do we need to sexualize kids at a young age? Why not just let them be, figure things out? I disagree. I don't think using sex toys is something that's appropriate in our public schools. I don't.
Yeah.
Because that's part of expressing your sexuality. And I don't think a 10-year-old is ready to express their sexuality.
Yeah. So you don't support sex toys and things like that?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think it belongs in those.
I mean,
it's irreversible. Or if it is, it's... I don't...
What do you mean it's irreversible?
For the surgeries.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's crazy.
I want to be so supportive, but at the same time, I want people to make good decisions.
Yeah. So are you concerned with all the talk of the LGBTQ and top surgery and bottom surgery? You're concerned with that?
Concerned. I just think that you better be sure, and I don't think... I know middle school and high school kids. They're not sure about what they're going to wear the next minute.
Yeah.
And that really devalues what someone is feeling inside, trapped inside a body, and I don't want to be that person either. So I don't know what the answer is.
Project Veritas met with several educators from EdCamp, all corroborating the trend of gender ideology being taught at these seminars. Stay tuned for more.
I mean, what else? I mean, really, my blood is boiling right now. When I tell you I got to see a piece of that last night. I did not get to see all of it. The fact that this man so flippantly admits that this is happening in every school on Long Island, particularly in Nassau County. We knew it. We knew it all along. And this proves it. To his credit, I will say it's big of him to not want to have sex toys in a classroom full of children. Congratulations. The fact that that's even a controversial subject right now blows my mind. My blood is boiling right now. Guys, I need you to share this video everywhere. I need you to put it in all of your groups, on your personal pages. Every single one of you has kids on Long Island. Every single one of you has kids. The fact that this guy says it so flippantly about how he just roots out conservatives. You want to keep politics out of school, no problem. But by targeting conservatives, you are thus letting in those people with the ideology that is similar to your own. I'm nauseated right now. I'm absolutely disgusted. It is time for all of us to get back to the school board meetings. Every single one of us, the way we packed them out over the last couple of years. Get these people on record saying that this guy, David Casamigo, or whatever the hell his name is, does not represent their community, and find out if any of your administrators were at this conference. Find out if any of your administrators were at this conference. He openly admits that at the superintendent meetings, they discuss how covertly they put DEI in because of you. They have to do it subtly because you applied the pressure. We can never let up. We can never stop moving forward. Don't give them an inch. Keep going. Obviously, what we are doing is working. Obviously, what we're doing is working. I cannot believe and you know what it is? It's not that he said it. It's the flippancy in which he said it. Like it was no big deal. And on this show and on all my shows, I talk about how teachers with tenure are immune from punishment. They can't be fired. And that's why he goes out of his way to make sure the teachers who push the ideology that he wants gets tenure. And we've seen the nonsense in East Meadow schools. We've seen the seminars called Ed Camp, ED, I guess Education Camp, ED Camp. I'm so disgusted right now. Regina, you're lucky you don't have this crap in Oklahoma. They're poisoning your kids. And they're laughing while they do it. I want to thank the guys over at Project Veritas for letting me break the story. Guys, please, I need you to share this video out. Maria, the way you find out is by asking them. And you ask your administrators whether they've gone to these meetings, whether they've had exchanges with this guy from East Hempstead. And if they don't answer the question, you put in a FOIL request to get the emails from your administrators to see if they've been talking to this guy. You put in the FOIL request to see if the school district has paid to get teachers to go to this ed camp. I'm furious right now. You guys, please share this video. Look, I know I went pretty hard at Project Veritas after the whole James thing. This is our neighborhood. This is too big. We knew this was happening. We knew it was happening. And now we've got the proof. This guy admits. He admits that he does it with every administrator across Long Island, particularly in Nassau County. They're using your tax dollars, if you live in East Meadow, to send this piece of shit to a meeting where he learns and teaches other teachers how to poison your children. Not much more can be said on it. Not much more can be said on this. Guys, I believe the East Meadow School District school board meeting is tonight. I will verify that. I'm in touch with Barbara from Moms for Liberty from Nassau County. We're going to work this out. Stay tuned for more updates. I don't know. If your blood ain't boiling right now, if your blood pressure isn't 260, I don't know what you're doing. Guys, please share this video out. If you have friends that live in East Meadow, tag them in the chat below. If you're on Rumble, share the Rumble link. We need to get this information out to the public. I don't even care if they watch the whole show. Just tell them to watch the end of it. This information needs to get out. Your friends on Long Island need to know that it is happening. We've known it's been happening, and now we've got the proof. We've got the assistant superintendent for curriculum talking about putting covert DEI into the classrooms. And he's got to do it secretively because you all have been so loud about it. I do like how, look, selfishly, do I like that he kept saying the word loud? Absolutely. Because don't think he doesn't know who you are when you go to those school board meetings. If ComSwag proved anything, it's that what the parents are doing is working. There had to be 15 cop cars at the ComSwag meeting. I wonder how many will be at the East Meadow meeting we will be at tonight. I believe it's tonight. Let me double check that, and then I will put out that information. Guys, it's almost 9:30. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. The chat was blowing up today. You guys were the first people in America to see that video. Tomorrow on my 1 p.m. show, I will have the senior reporter at Project Veritas, James Lulino, in the second chair over here to discuss what happens at the EdCamp convention. And he's a good friend of mine. Guys, if you're looking to share the video and you're on Facebook, hit that little arrow right at the bottom of the video. It'll say share. Share it all over the place. Look, I get it. I'm furious. I'm absolutely furious. Guys, before I close out, like I said, just keep sharing this video out. We got to get this information out to the rest of Long Island. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today on your way out the door. Make sure you guys hit the like button, hit the rumble button. Keep pumping this video. The video is on all of Project Veritas' social medias. I know, it's been a bit contentious. There are still good people over there doing good work. And the man, James Olino, who I'm having in tomorrow, he's a very dear friend of mine. He's still doing phenomenal work. And we're going to find out more about what's going on in our schools because this crap needs to be exposed. I want to thank all the guys over there for giving me this interview and giving me exclusive access to this, for putting their trust in me to get this information out to you guys appropriately. Guys, oh Jesus, there's 1,000 ways to close out this show, and they're poisoning our kids. And I know idiot liberals watching this will watch this and say, I don't have kids. I have nieces and nephews. I have friends who have kids. Plus, I want to, not poison the next generation of our country. It's staggering. The flippancy in which he says these things. His sexual identity is important to him because it helps him connect with kids. It is big of him, though, to keep the sex toys out of the school, though. He actually said that in such a way that, I wouldn't go that far. Notice he doesn't. Notice what he doesn't do when asked about top and bottom surgery. Notice what he doesn't do. He doesn't immediately disavow it. He just says, you better be sure. No, you sicko. You freak. Top and bottom surgeries for kids. What the hell are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? If you live in East Meadow, just know that you are dropping your children off to that man for 8 hours a day. Something tells me you won't be dropping him off there. You won't be dropping your kids off to him for 8 hours a day for much longer. I want to thank the guys at Project Veritas. I want to thank Scott PRESLER for sitting down with us at CPAC. More news on what Scott's going to have going on. Guys, the only way we're going to get this out is if we share it. You're not going to see it on the mainstream media. You're not going to see it on Good Morning America. You're not going to see it on CNN or the Today Show. Something tells me Kelly Ripa won't be talking about this. The View will. If they do talk about it, they'll distort it in some way because Joy Behar's an idiot. The only way people are going to find out about this is if you share the content. If you let people know what's happening in their local communities. It is up to you. What are you willing to do? How many people are you willing to show that video to? How many school board meetings are you willing to attend? If not for your kids, do it for other people's. At ComSwag last week, the other day, there were parents from districts all over the island supporting the other parents. I want to thank Tom Weirman, Crystal, and Brianna from Moms for Liberty. Their speeches were phenomenal over there. We can't stop. We can't ever stop. Guys, it's 9:30. I've been on for I've been on for an hour and 10 minutes. Make sure you guys tune in at 1 o'clock, rumble.com/LFATV for the national show. I will be putting out more information on the school board meeting in East Meadow. I do think it may be a bit fiery. It'll be fiery, but mostly peaceful, I guess. I don't know, according to CNN. Guys, I will see you Friday morning or later today. Make sure you tune in Friday morning for my interview with the senior reporter at Project Veritas as we discuss all this nonsense, and he tells you a little bit more about EdCamp. Guys, until either later today or Friday morning, Got to stay loud. You got to stay loud because apparently administrators in East Meadow don't really like it. Well, you know what? David, whatever the hell your name is, we don't really like you. We don't really like you. But until then, guys, stay loud.